in humans, I think the first thing that comes is, are you healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to feed? Are you able to access? Then the rest can follow. So when you look at a lot of people who are not able now to even get the basics,
Mm-hmm.
education now becomes a secondary need,
While it's
which
supposed to be a primary
it should be
need.
a primary need.
Mm. All right, thank you so much. That was David Karani, who is also a grassroots activist and also an expert on issues around education, working with the Elimu Bora Working Group. And we are really honored to have had him in this podcast, what we're calling the Mtaani podcast.
Be able to serve self and also
Mm-hmm.
to be able to be useful
Mm-hmm.
to the country.
Yes.
I think it's important to have this basic education.
Mm-hmm.
As a constitution actually, um, it gives you the right
Mm-hmm.
to have at least basic education.
Yes, and
So
it says it must be free and compulsory.
it's very compulsory.
Okay.
But at the moment, you're still struggling with people who are asked. And one fact that I would wish to share, which is heartbreaking,
Mm-hmm.
is now we are having class six dropouts in our
Mm-hmm.
communities. We're having people,
And why class 6?
because there's a transition.
Okay.
Actually, how CBC is structured is
Mm-hmm.
there's 6 years
Mm-hmm.
of now the lower.
Yeah.
Now they're supposed to now go to senior.
Mm-hmm.
Now it becomes now that transition
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people is comes with a lot of cost.
Mm-hmm.
In many schools, you'd find principals or head teachers have taken advantage,
Mm-hmm.
where somebody who needs now to go to the next level
Yeah.
needs to come with money,
Yeah.
needs a whole set of uniform,
Mm-hmm.
needs to come with a desk, needs
Mm-hmm.
to come with a lot of things. So for many people in urban or even in communities,
Mm-hmm.
are not able to cater for this cost. So certainly we are going to be having now people who are going to be out of school
Mm-hmm.
at grade six, which is
So,
very sad.
so
So
do
that's
you want to tell
actually,
me that you see now we've had when we had the 844, we used to have either class 8 dropouts, form 4 dropouts. Okay, form 4 can be dropout as much, but anyway, they stopped learning from at form 4.
yeah,
So it means like when we change the figures, we are now talking about the CBC, which is
they do primary 2 years, then they do primary 6 years,
Mhm,
junior secondary, they do all 3 years.
mhm.
That's grade seven, eight, and nine.
So it's like now then these numbers are supposed to indicate that this you can stop at any point
But now you see,
rather
at least
than promoting continuity.
because previously government had a policy of 100% transition.
Mhm,
I've not seen it being, because for the last 3 years
mhm,
we've been taking up CBC.
mhm.
There's a lot of children who have not been able to transit to grade seven.
Okay.
As I said earlier, you find those barriers
Mhm,
are not supposed to be there. There's nothing at breaking as a child telling you, I'm unable to access
mhm,
because of lack of resources.
mhm,
It's usually one of those heartbreaking moments,
mhm,
and you really feel like this child has been denied the opportunity
mhm.
to be able to make something of themselves
You see,
and make a
the
difference.
Constitution, I think, is it in Article 53 when it talks about free and compulsory education.
Yeah.
Why do you think the Constitution envisioned that basic education has to be free and compulsory?
I think right now, if you look at
Mhm,
the world is really progressing.
mhm,
If we need to have a country that is actually competitive out
mhm,
there in the world,
mhm,
we need to have our people that are able to just comprehend
mhm,
a bit of if you're a student of history, you'll know that when Jomo Kenyatta took up this country, he actually mentioned that one of those major things that we need to work on
mm,
was
mhm,
ujinga,
mm,
to lack of a better word.
mm.
So I think that was one of those things that we really
And
needed to
basic
work
education
out.
is what really brings out somewhere. It's like it pulls you out from
just living an illiterate
Yeah,
kind of life.
I think basic education now helps you now to be able to pick up any other skill
Mm,
afterwards, because at least by then you've been actually been brought into the system.
mhm,
You are able to do basic writing, basic talking. At least
mhm,
you're able to communicate,
mhm,
and you're also able to now take up even instructions,
mhm,
because it's very important also to be able to take up instructions in writing
mm,
even when the person is not there. So I think this one is actually that basic education leaves you there.
mm,
So when you have learners who are not able to transit
mm,
to grade 7
mhm,
due to lack of money
mm,
or resources, it's actually very bad. Because
mm,
previously we had grade 8, we had class 8.
mhm,
Think at class 8 you'd exit with at least certificates,
mm.
primary school certificate.
Yeah.
People who would go to village polytechnics
Yes.
and would be able to pick up a skill
Mm,
and be able to continue.
mm,
Because I think for those who, I don't know, for those who are a bit not Gen Zs, but
mm,
for those who are a bit older,
mm.
they went through a very good primary education
Yeah.
where we had business education, we
Mhm,
had music, we
mhm,
had art and craft. If you're able to at least get to grade 8,
mhm,
you'd be able to go to a village polytechnic
mhm,
and be able to pick up one of those skills.
mm,
If it was carpentry, if it was welding, if it was
mhm,
masonry, you'd
mhm.
be able at least to have a skill. Because I
Okay.
think now this grade 6 learner is exiting education without
Mm.
any form of even certification that this person has been to school. So
Okay,
it's really sad.
okay, okay. And we are talking about education and basic education, but generally, maybe you can tell us, because you've been really advocating for the rights of individuals, that is the students, teachers, generally within the education sector. Maybe you can tell us, when children do not access basic education, how does that directly or indirectly relate to their dignity?
I think today, uh, if um, if you're having a conversation
Mhm,
about something
mhm,
and there's somebody somewhere
mhm,
who feels like they're not able to even comprehend
mhm.
what you people are talking about,
Yeah.
it leaves them out. It
Mm,
robs them of their dignity,
mhm,
such that even if it's a conversation that is being had
mhm,
about even your own issues, you're not
mhm,
able to come in and maybe add one or two
mhm,
three things, because
mm,
you feel like you do not have
mm,
any powers, because you've been denied that dignity, your dignity. I think the minute now you're taken through the system, as I
mm,
mentioned earlier,
mm,
you're able now to you're able to read even communication that is
mm,
written. You're able to at least to know a bit of mathematics here, a bit of
mhm,
science here, a bit of
mhm,
biology here.
mhm,
So even if a discussion was being had today here
mm,
about something,
mhm.
you're able to know this is what they're talking about, the structure of
Ah,
government. But
okay.
now when you're denied that
Mhm,
that basic education,
mhm,
you even don't you feel like you don't even have the right
mm.
to even talk about something that affects you directly.
Because
And that is how you
this
even
one,
find people with very low
mhm,
self-esteem,
mhm,
and they feel like they don't belong. Even in a conversation,
mm.
they'll want to seclude themselves, because like,
Okay,
what do I have
okay.
to
Mhm,
say? Because
mhm,
I don't have so much to say, because I
mhm.
don't have an education.
That's
So
true.
it robs you of even your dignity. It robs you
Mm.
of even your self-esteem.
Because you see, recently when we were talking about issues, when we had Kenyan youth out there trying to really advocate for good governance in the country, I think in 2024 it was a bit different. Actually, I was reading an article and it was talking about the difference between the demonstrations that we had before and what we were experiencing last year. And one of the key and very, very, very notable issues is that we saw, I think, a more educated, a more informed youth coming out and calling out government on issues around governance. Unlike what we used to have in the past, whereby we had actually politicians actually going into this informal settlement
You're
and
charging the crowd there.
charging the crowd there, and the crowd would just come, loot, and I mean, do all sorts of things. And I think, does that show the difference between an educated lot and I don't want to say those who are in the peri-urban areas are not educated,
No,
but anyway, most
clear,
of them
clearly,
don't have access to basic education.
clearly
And
they've
when
been
they
denied.
do, some of them you'll find them in some of these schools that we call upbeat schools, the alternative providers of basic education and training. You know those schools that are
But yeah,
not registered.
there are a lot
So
of those
so
in
so
informal settlement.
so is that scenario, when I bring in that scenario, does it really explain some of the reasons why we need education in the country and basic education generally?
I think you really mentioned something very, very great, a very good example
Mhm,
of how a lot that has is empowered
mhm,
is able to articulate matters.
mhm,
During that demo,
mhm,
you would see a lot of people out there
mhm,
who were actually out there to demonstrate on issues.
mhm,
If you met anyone in those protests
mm,
and asked them what is the issue,
mm.
they would be able to articulate and tell you,
Yes.
this and this and this and this is what we're fighting for.
Mhm,
One thing, as I had mentioned earlier, um, education gives you an opportunity
mhm,
to be able to even listen
mhm,
to somebody else and understand basically what they're trying to say.
mhm,
You may not be you may not be a lawyer,
mm,
but you're able to sit down and understand when a lawyer breaks it down to you,
mhm.
and you're able now to even pick up
Just
a
to able to
constitution
comprehend,
and be
yes.
able to comprehend.
Mhm,
You may not be a doctor, but once you get into a doctor's
mm,
office, a
mhm,
doctor is able to tell you
mm,
and even write to you some of the things that you're able to comprehend.
mhm,
You may not be a teacher, but
mhm,
you're able now to guide anyone in the system.
mm,
So I think that is now the effects, the good effects
mhm,
of seeing young people who
mhm,
have read the constitution and they've known
mhm,
it is our right
mhm.
to picket, it is our right to demonstrate.
All right.
So I think that is one of the hiyo ndio matunda. You can
Because
say those are the fruits
so
of
that, so,
now.
so that we can close on that issue on the basic education. Maybe you can tell us, do you think that um, when actually generally when you talk about basic education, do you think that basic education is enough? Is it just enough? Because we are seeing even up to even other levels of education, we also have challenges. But by having basic education in turmoil, do you think basic education is it enough? Because most of the time you realize that that in as much as, okay, there are still people who access basic education, but again, at some point, it still, does it dignify someone as much? Anyway, it's going to give you at least some literacy, or what we call
uh,
literacy. But is it enough?
I feel like it's not really enough, but it's something very important.
But should we be struggling? Because even nowadays, people still can't, doesn't seem like people still understand even the current curriculum,
Uh,
at least even for the basic education,
yeah,
because the current curriculum has not yet moved to secondary
yeah,
and to tertiary
yeah.
levels.
So what I feel like is, as I mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm,
it gives you a bit of comprehension.
mm-hmm,
You're able to get into any field
mm-hmm.
and be able to understand.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have a lot of now new careers that are coming up.
Mm-hmm,
We have people who are doing basically not the conventional
mm,
careers that we knew,
mm,
but people who are making a living from them.
yeah.
So I feel like just getting a basic education
Mm,
can be able to equip you
mm-hmm,
enough to even take up a skill,
mm-hmm,
even self-taught,
mm-hmm,
or even be able to take up a skill
mm,
that you're able to now earn a living from. Because I feel like, as I mentioned, basic may not be enough
mm-hmm,
for you to be able to contribute
mm-hmm,
enough
mm-hmm,
to humanity,
mm,
but it's something that you're able now to actually even contribute to the family income,
mm-hmm.
be able to live a dignified way.
You see, I've seen you on TV and on radio talking about matters education and Elimu Bora. And one of the questions maybe I would want to ask is, why do you think anybody would want to frustrate the education system? Because currently we have an issue. We are talking about issues all over the education sector, not only with the CBC, not only with the curriculum, not only it's sometimes it's about printing of books, publishers, sometimes it's about employment of teachers, sometimes we are talking about infrastructure, at times we are talking, very many things. And even after all that struggle, we are not also guaranteeing these children or these people, Kenyans, that they are also going to benefit from the same system. So, um, why do you think anybody would want to frustrate this? Because ultimately, it's affecting the dignity of people. Because when we have it's imekuwa ngumu, an
Uneducated.
uneducated lot, we are talking about a lot of impact on their dignity.
I think when you mention Gen Zs
Mhm,
coming out of the streets to demand their rights,
mhm,
I would wish to bring this together with that issue of now people, some people trying to ensure that there's no proper education in the country,
mm,
because it actually works for their advantage.
mhm,
Because if today I was to go and try and look for people who are sent in a demo
mhm,
for my own benefit,
mhm,
they'll go and ask me, what is it in for me?
mm,
But that's an educated lot. But if
mhm,
I don't have an educated lot,
mhm,
they're desperate.
mhm,
They're looking for the next meal.
mhm,
So they are up for use. I can be able to misuse them at any time.
mm,
So I think sometimes the failure to plan on education
mhm,
is intentional.
mm.
The political class to ensure that there is actually that
People remain desperate.
people remain desperate,
Mhm,
and they are looked up to as messiahs, as
mhm,
people who now are going to save,
mhm.
which I feel like
And it isn't that too much. I mean, is that not supposed to be happening in this century
at
and in
this
these
day and
times?
age, we are not supposed to be having that kind of political misuse of the young people and stuff
Mm,
like that.
mhm,
But as you mentioned earlier, there's somebody somewhere who knows if the people are educated and they're out there
mhm,
earning a living and earning a dignified living,
mhm,
they'll not be used
mhm.
or misused for personal gain.
Okay.
You cannot tell them to go and disrupt someone.
Mhm,
You cannot come out and mention some policies that are not proper, and
mhm,
they'll just call you out.
mm,
As we are seeing right now in the country, people are looking at they're taking time.
mhm,
You've done your proposals, your budget proposals. Go sit down and look at them.
mm,
And actually, when you call and I'd really like to thank the Constitution, the framers of this Constitution, when they
mm,
say public participation is,
mm,
so it's not something that it's a right, so that people can come and actually give their views. Uh, and recently, the High Court has just given a very progressive ruling
mm,
that when you give those comments,
mhm,
you're supposed to be given. You're supposed to actually. They're supposed to actually uh, give you just a receive,
mhm,
or just tell you they've actually received,
mhm.
or give you feedback on your comments.
Yeah.
Because at times there are people who are sending their comments, doesn't napotea hivyo. So I
Mhm,
think it's really good uh, that we have a lot of people who are actually educated.
mm,
That's the only way our community will go.
yeah.
But sincerely, as you mentioned,
Mm,
the people who, when they look at access to education
mhm,
and everyone having an education,
mm,
they see their political careers going.
mm,
And there are people who actually been using that to maintain power
mhm.
or to be relevant.
And what would be your recommendation yourself when it comes to enabling access to education, especially within the informal settlement? Because are we again? And then that is one question. And then the second question is, there are also those, yes, who are accessing, but the other question is on quality. Is it quality education? So what would be your comment on that? Because I think, to be honest, outrightly, some of the facilities that people attend school, some of them don't really encourage or dignify them. There are places that really should not be even learning facilities.
The places even you wonder how a child will learn in that.
Yes.
I think this is where now I call on the community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
uh, previously, I mentioned there are those who benefited uh, previously in those Kitambo, the
Mm-hmm.
schools that are called Harambe schools.
Mm-hmm.
Harambe schools were built by the community.
Mm-hmm.
Harambe schools were actually owned by the community.
Mm-hmm.
You'd find a school, community has put up land, they have put up aside
Mm-hmm.
a place where they can decide now this is going to be our secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
And you find the community feels like this is our school.
Yeah.
Today people feel like a school is owned by CDF.
Mm.
You'd find very, 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 very many people not
Mhm.
wanting to know what is happening around
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
schools. In those Arambe schools, you'd find their mothers who, when the school was being built,
Mm.
they went and fetched water
Mm.
because they knew we want our children to come closer or
Mhm.
have a minimum trek lesser,
Mhm.
or we want our children to access good quality education.
Mhm.
And those schools were owned fully by the community.
Mhm.
And anytime you'd find an issue that is going to disrupt the learning in this institution, the
Mhm.
parents were ready.
Mhm.
Ask, what is the problem?
Mhm.
If they found a teacher who's not doing their job, they'd actually call them out
Mhm.
and say, this mwalimu is going to ensure that our school does not go anywhere.
Mhm.
Taangusha shule yetu.
Mhm.
So this brought a lot of ownership
Yeah.
in the community, where you would find even the community members would be like, we have a school here. Why is your child not in school?
Mhm.
So when you chase a student from the school, even the community will be asking you, this is our school.
Mhm.
If there's any charges that this, we will talk about them
Mhm.
as we continue.
So
So,
why has it gone down? Is it that also the parents have
so
got to the community has gotten to a point where they don't also really value um how education used to be
they're really not
in the
involved.
past
As I mentioned,
as it is now? Yeah.
these people are looking at schools as a
Mhm.
CDF project. So they have less.
Mhm.
Even they don't care about what is happening there.
Mhm.
That's why you find a teacher who is supposed to be teaching your child
Mhm.
is a boda boda rider
Mm.
sitting in the stage,
Yeah.
and you are next there. You're telling him, actually, you're the one telling him it's your turn now.
Mm.
Because you're in the same stage, and your son is supposed to be in school being taught by this teacher.
Mhm.
And you're still encouraging this person
Mhm.
to be in the boda boda shade.
Mhm.
At the same time, that time they're supposed to be in class teaching a child.
Mm.
So that is where now we bring in the aspect of community.
Mhm.
How does the community take up education?
Mhm.
I think it's really important when community decides we want to ensure that our our, our community
Mhm.
has basic education,
Mm.
so that if anyone wants to continue from there,
Mhm.
they can continue.
Mhm.
We want a population that can comprehend
Mm.
basic.
Mhm.
If a letter was today sent by the chief,
Mhm.
we would not have people who will say, I did not get that communication because I'm not able to read or
Mm.
write.
Mm.
If a child today is told, go and you're helped by your parents or with homework,
Mhm.
they're able to. So I think it's something that we really need to
Yeah.
go back to as a
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
to ensure that we are involved
Mhm.
in the learning, so that even in the communities, because see, if community members today called out the leadership and told
Mm.
them we do not have a school in our
Mm.
area,
Mm.
you'll not be coming here to tell us about politics
Mhm.
when our children are not able to access education.
Mhm.
Those people will have to be answered.
Mm.
They'll have to even go and look for space and say, this is where we want our school to be built.
Mhm.
So I think it's really important that as as community members,
Mhm.
as Kenyans, we
Mhm.
take up and realize
Mhm.
education is a collective
Mhm.
effort, and it's a public good
Yeah.
that I think we should always ensure that everyone is able to access it.
You see, in the past, we used to associate education and employment, and the general assumption was that when you are educated, you're guaranteed on
Of
employment.
employment.
Yes,
Even parents will say, "Lisoma utapata
yes,
kazi mzuri."
yes, exactly. But now we are talking about education. People don't have access to education, and that robs them of their dignity. And also, again, those who are educated, again, they don't have employment,
And it robs them
which
of their
also
dignity.
robs them of their dignity. What would be your comment on that? Because I think, isn't that double crisis?
And I think, as I mentioned earlier, education should be able to help you
Mhm.
contribute to humanity.
Yeah.
How you contribute should not be just by being employed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where
Mm-hmm.
we
Okay.
got it wrong.
Okay.
Right now, we are seeing a lot of not so conventional ways of making or getting employed.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we have a lot of opportunities. People are getting opportunities in very different ways
Mm.
that we before we would not expect.
And do you
Therefore,
think the current curriculum, the changes, the CBC, now ultimately when we'll get the final person or the final group getting through the last stage, do you think it's going to address some of these needs? Because I think one of the brains that were behind this were that education is not just going to be a train
Mm.
towards getting formal employment, but it's going to open up the minds of people to be able to really explore different opportunities.
Because I think one of the things that CBC is encouraging is creativity
Mhm,
and innovation.
mhm,
Right now, there's a lot of creativity and innovation in the learners,
mhm,
and it promotes also inclusivity.
mhm,
Because right now we are seeing a lot of schools having section
mhm.
for learners with special needs,
Yeah.
and also we are seeing practicality. Because right now, even digital skills, because as now we're looking at a world where right now we are doing a podcast.
Mhm,
Some few years ago,
mhm.
you'd not tell people that you are able now to talk to millions of people out there,
Yeah,
and millions of people would listen to you
yeah.
just through a simple setup like this. So things are growing,
Yeah.
and it's really important that we ensure that also our
Mhm,
learners or our generations is able to adapt
mhm,
those new changes that are happening.
mhm,
So, as you mentioned, there are a lot of people out there who are feeling like they went through the education
mhm,
and now they're being used as an example of those people who never got employment or those
mm.
people who are wasted their education.
Yeah.
But I tend to tell people we just don't go to school to get employed.
Mhm,
We go to school now to contribute to humanity
mhm.
and also contribute to also become more enlightened people.
You see, now we are talking here of a person in somewhere in Bangladesh, somewhere in Kibra, someone in Eldoret in Langas, yeah, someone
Who has been
who,
told soma utapata kazi nzuri
yes, and
all his life.
they are there, they really struggle to even access education.
Mhm.
They already have education, but they don't know what to do with that education. And actually, they are still living a very undignified life.
And I think that is a thing that actually CBC
Mhm,
is trying to actually uh, cure.
mhm,
Because previously, 844, the 844 system,
mhm,
before it was scrapped off of a lot of things,
mhm,
it was giving a learner a lot of practical skills,
mhm,
home science,
mhm,
music, art and craft, such that a person coming out of secondary school,
mhm.
for those who went to the school those days,
Yeah.
there are schools that even had power mechanic,
Mhm,
electricity, and welding. They also had a lot masonry.
mhm,
So if you're coming out of school,
mhm,
time,
mhm,
you'd be able now to go and contribute,
mhm,
not only by your intellectual skills,
mhm,
but also by your practical skills. I don't know who told people that you cannot be a fundi who is a graduate.
mm.
Eh? I don't know who told people you cannot be a musician who is a
But
graduate.
you see now, at times, even as a society,
Uh,
there are jobs we consider dignified and
uh,
those that are not.
uh.
Yes.
So I think CBC is trying to, because right now we have people who are earning millions
Okay.
just by uploading their stuff,
Mhm,
just by being artists, just by
mhm,
being musicians.
mhm,
So I think those now we're queuing that problem where
mm,
people just thought of education as a way of just earning an income
mhm,
and being sitting somewhere and maybe being a clerical officer where you just signing papers
mhm,
and getting a payment at the end of the month. So right now things are changing. We are seeing it's a digital world.
mhm.
A lot of is happening. So
Yeah.
we really need to change with the times.
All right. Before before I come to something else, because I want us to also talk about the new funding model, the university funding model, briefly. What would you tell communities down there? Because I want you to communicate to even some of the people that down there in the informal settlements who really don't have much at their disposal besides education. Yes.
Uh,
And that is what they expected, that is going to dignify them. They are there jobless, they don't know what to do, and they have education. They've really done a lot simply to have education. But here you're telling us that that should get out. Is it a perception change, or is it that there is something also as a society we can do to ensure that even those who are educated also live a dignified life? In short, actually, what can we do as a society to ensure that those who are educated, because really they have toiled, going through the Kenyan system is no joke.
Yes,
So how what do we do to ensure that they live a dignified life?
I think at this point I would call out also for government
Mm-hmm.
to be able to ensure that there are opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
because that is the only way we can be able to ensure that all these people
Mm-hmm.
are able to contribute to the economy
Okay.
and also contribute to the income of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, it's really painful
Mm-hmm.
when you take your child through the system
Mm-hmm.
and then they come back. Then they have now to look now uh, at you again
Mm-hmm.
for daily food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really painful to a parent.
Yeah, because you see, you cannot compare Kenya with some of the most developed
Yeah.
countries whereby at least there are opportunities.
Yeah. So I
There
think
are, there are quite a number of avenues that you can use for you to be
so. It's
successful and
really
to live a
important.
dignified
It's
life.
really important that we just don't try and tell those people
Mm-hmm.
look for alternatives,
Mm-hmm.
but also call out government.
Yeah.
uh, it's upon government to ensure that these opportunities,
Mm.
if it's not in the formal sector, also in the informal sector.
Mm.
Because you find I always tell people, even if you decide today to sell mangoes
Mm.
and you're a graduate, you'll sell those mangoes differently
Mm.
for a person who does not have education.
Now talking about graduates.
Yeah.
Now talking about graduates.
No, you see, once the government ensures that there are opportunities,
Mm.
and there are opportunities everywhere,
Mm.
you are able with your with the skill set that you have,
Mm-hmm.
having gone through a university,
Mm-hmm.
you're able to do proposal writing. You're
Mm.
able to look at a situation
Mm-hmm.
and do critical thinking and look at a community and say this community does not have anyone
Mm-hmm.
doing this service
Mm-hmm.
and make it professional. I think that is one of those things we need to call
Mm.
out for
Mm.
to ensure that anytime you
Mm-hmm.
go to an institution,
Yeah.
you just don't go to an institution
Mm-hmm.
and you just stick to what the line that now since you went to an institution and you're a banker,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never think of anything else.
Mm.
Like when I did become, now I'll be looking for a job in become.
No, but you see, the challenge here is, and let me play the devil's advocate. The challenge here is, you know, sometimes when we are talking about issues, for instance, femicide, we are always told that we need to leave the victim alone. We need to leave the victim alone, and the victim here is an educated man.
Mhm.
The victim here is a young educated man. Okay, aren't you victimizing them by telling them because you don't have like it's like okay, we don't care what you've studied. Okay, like we don't care what you've been studying for 4 years.
We're not victimizing them. What we are telling them is
Yeah.
education is fitted to help you.
Don't,
No,
okay, actually the question is,
just
aren't we supposed to have a reward system? Is it supposed to reward?
education is supposed to help you
Mhm.
solve problems.
Okay.
Solve problems. Doesn't matter which kind of problems you find in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So if today you're in a community where there's water problems,
Mm-hmm.
you're a graduate and you're thinking now, what do I do here?
Mm-hmm.
You yourself you're struggling with water,
Mm-hmm.
eh? And you're supposed to do something with the knowledge that you have. You see, education is supposed to make you solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to. You don't have to always go and solve problems
Mm-hmm.
at a level where now you are being paid for your solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
As an employer telling you now solve these problems. You look at a community and you see in a community where we're having farmers who don't have this kind of issue.
Mm-hmm.
With your skills in looking at the market, you're able to do a market research.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to do even you're able to do a very good presentation
Mm-hmm.
that you can present to even investors and tell them this is what I want. So if you're going to have we're taking our learners to school, we're going to ask them education for what?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? What are you going to get an education for?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to get an education so that you're out here saying
Mm.
you want to be employed, then you want to be employed. Because government can never employ everyone.
You see now, it gives me the feeling like we need to also adjust. We need more reforms. We need like to again scrap the CBC and get
No, CBC is going to help.
okay, this is the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
Because I felt like maybe from that we may need to have like a general kind of approach to education, because you see, someone has gone and done journalism.
Mhm.
Someone has gone to university and done commerce.
Mhm.
Someone has gone and done project management.
Mhm.
These are courses that are dealing with specific problems, because they feel that personally, I feel like this is the problem I want to solve in the community. So let me do project management. Someone will say, let me do developmental communication, because I have realized that we have very poor kind of communication from government and from maybe institutions, public institutions on development. So I went to university to study a course that is solving a specific
Problem.
problem.
You're
But
limiting yourself.
but someone is telling me, yes, because actually that's my passion. And someone is telling me that I need to focus on I need to sell maybe some oranges somewhere. And I'm not saying selling oranges is wrong. But does that mean that we need to review more within the education system to ensure that at least we have a general approach to what we are going to qualify for, other than going to specifics? And then when we come out here, the specifics we learned about, we are not able to be rewarded for that.
I always tell people, uh, an economy is ran by production.
Uh-huh.
We cannot, if you're not producing,
Mhm,
you cannot come and claim is there's not enough
mhm,
opportunities.
mhm,
Because in an organization there can only be one accountant.
mhm,
But if you create a lot of small industries,
mhm,
there's going to be need
mhm,
to have a lot of accountants.
mhm,
If today we give young people an opportunity
mhm,
to be able to come up with small just small industries
mhm,
to be able to manufacture,
mhm,
and tell them, you're a good manager, you've learned your history in secondary school, you've done your history or geography teacher,
mhm,
but now it's time for you to come and relearn.
mhm,
The fact that you've gone to university shows that you're trainable.
mhm.
You can train a new skill. You can come out here and I'll teach you something new.
Okay.
That is now where you find even there are jobs that call out for graduates,
Mhm,
and you go there and they teach you something new.
mhm,
The fact that you are able to now take up the learning that you've learned
mhm,
in an institution of higher learning,
mhm.
it shows that you're able to relearn and
Because
learn
actually,
very
'cause actually
fast.
the question here is, David, that yes, it's okay. You have that education, but seems like it's not rewarding. And just to join that with also talking about issues, even with access to that actual tertiary education, because we are talking about university,
Mm.
college, or technical courses out there. And that, especially in the country, I think one of the issues that has come is because of the new funding model. Because the new funding model is banding people, it's putting people in specific bands.
Mm.
Okay, initially, yes, the government keeps saying that we still had bands and categories,
Mm.
but I think maybe they were more elaborate then. And the current means testing instrument doesn't seem to like really bring people into the right bands.
Mm.
And also the other issue is, uh, again, the same bands, I think for one or two reasons, there are people who have also complained of discrimination. Because imagine I'm studying with you hapa kwa shule, and you know very well that I'm in band one. So you know that I am a poor person. I am coming from a poor background.
Right.
Eh?
Because
So,
the
so
aspect of
definitely you're not going to respect me. You're not
uh,
going to treat me with dignity as much as, generally society respects people who come from also dignified families, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So what would be your comment on that real quick, even as we wrap up on that?
Uh, the banding was really, and recently the
Mhm,
court
mhm,
declared, first that new model was unconstitutional.
mhm,
That was a case that was taken to court by Elimobora
mhm.
working group,
Yeah.
which I serve as one of the members.
Mm,
And one of the things that we felt was really uh, bad
mhm,
was the issue of now telling a learner
mhm,
that your background
mhm.
will be used to determine how you're going to be funded.
Yes.
You see, once somebody comes from a certain background, does not actually it should not be an issue
Mm-hmm.
when you go to an institution or anywhere else.
There should be equality.
It should be equality.
Mm-hmm.
So that is discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
When you start now talking about using the family background
Mm-hmm.
to issue loans and issuing now loans based on also courses,
Mm-hmm.
that was discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
So the court declared that that was discriminatory,
Yeah.
which we really supported.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there was no public participation
Mm-hmm.
when they were introducing this.
Okay.
So I think it was really rushed.
Mm.
Just because now when you find a learner who
Mm-hmm.
tells you, sincerely speaking,
Mm-hmm.
I've never had those means instruments. I've never even known how it's measured.
Mm.
Somebody will say you went to this high school, so since you went to that high school, and there are a lot of people who went to very big high schools but on sponsorship.
Mm.
That doesn't mean that you should be able now to affect how you're valued up there,
Right.
or you should not be able to affect now how you're treated
Mm-hmm.
in the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So we also have a lot of learners who things change in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You today you may be having a lot and tomorrow you have nothing.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've seen even in life. The people who wake up and things have changed.
Mm.
And also, I think the fact that you're now an 18-year-old
Mm.
shouldn't be treated now based on now your family background.
Mm-hmm.
You're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
I should treat you like an adult.
So you should be treated as an adult and be given the money that you need for education
Be given
without
the
having to
funding that you
consider the
need.
background
Uh,
again.
mm,
Okay, 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 okay. You can keep talking to us on Creco, on X at Creco Kenya, on TikTok and Instagram at Creco Kenya, also on LinkedIn at the Constitution and Reform Education Consortium. Where else? On YouTube at Creco KE. As we continue with this conversation.
uh,
And some of the issues that there are other issues, David, that really affect the dignity of individuals, and especially when they impact on education. For instance, one of it would be there are sometimes we have issues. We know education when there is this act that talks about education. When it talks about different conflicts, so it talks about teacher-student conflict, student-student,
mm,
teacher, and sometimes we have issues where we have early pregnancies, especially within high school and primary school. And some of these incidents are also linked to behavioral issues with the teachers. All right, and this does not only affect the teacher, because anyway they will also face the law, but also especially the dignity of kids, and also how they also have the comeback. Sometimes the kids will come back to school. It's also an issue with their dignity, and sometimes they are not also able to be psychologically well to continue with their studies, right? So, in as much as we are talking about the government's role, what do you think are some of the solutions to these issues? Because this really affects girls in school, especially girls. Girls really go through a lot due to some of these issues. What do you think we can do, or what do you think some are some of the solutions to these problems?
let me take you back a bit
Mm-hmm.
on the funding model.
Okay.
I forgot to mention
Mm-hmm.
the funding model.
Mm-hmm.
It go into a dignity.
Mm-hmm.
It removes that dignity
Mm-hmm.
from everyone, from
Okay.
anyone
Mm-hmm.
who was going through it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you find a learner who is being now told you're from a poor background
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be put in this band,
Mm-hmm.
it even takes down your morale,
Mm.
it takes out your dignity.
Yeah.
So I think that was just something that
Yeah.
we didn't do.
Yeah.
We
Right.
didn't need in this country.
Right.
So going to your question,
Mm-hmm.
the issue of early pregnancies, I'll go back now to start looking at it from community level.
Okay.
What are our communities doing about this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like there's a lot of discrimination
Mm-hmm.
to learners who fall pregnant early.
Mm-hmm.
And at times you find, because previously people used to take care of everyone in the community.
Mm-hmm.
You would find a parent who is not your mother, but if they find you in a corner
Mm-hmm.
that is not good, they'll actually call it out.
Mm-hmm.
And you also find community members you'd really protect the school going girls.
Mm.
And if you're found trying to talk to a school going girl,
Mm-hmm.
it would be problematic.
Yeah.
But I think today it's so the same.
Mm-hmm.
With advancement in everything,
Mm-hmm.
people are now withdrawing to now family setup,
Mm.
only taking care of the families
Mm.
matters.
Mm.
It's bringing a challenge
Yeah.
because you find now at times our girls get pregnant because of lack lack of things,
Mm-hmm.
basic things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a girl would get involved in a relationship
Mm-hmm.
with even the most notorious people, border people,
Mm-hmm.
because of being provided for some very basic needs,
Mm-hmm.
some pads,
Mm-hmm.
some money here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a girl needs to buy soap.
Mm-hmm.
A girl needs to buy maybe some things that she needs.
Was you mentioned something about Buddha Buddha, and one of one of the stories that we got from the community down there is actually one person who is a Buddha Buddha person, and he was saying that if you parents are not able to provide for your girls, we
Mhm.
are going to provide for them.
So I think the problem comes in there.
Yeah.
This person has not gotten into a relationship
Mm-hmm.
because they feel they're in a position to get into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They've got into a relationship because of lacking that human dignity.
Yeah.
When they don't have, there
Mm-hmm.
are those things that actually you're able to even walk out
Mm-hmm.
as a human being. Uh, when you go out and you're able to take a shower
Mm-hmm.
and you're able maybe to even have clean clothes or maybe even a change of clothes, it even helps you to walk out in a dignified manner.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we intertwine the two.
Mm-hmm.
The lack of dignity
Mm-hmm.
and the early pregnancies are connected
Mm-hmm.
because times, as I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
a girl will find a border guy who is able to give him maybe that 50 shillings that the
Mm-hmm.
girl needs
Mm-hmm.
to even maybe buy a supply, a school
Yeah.
supply,
Yeah.
or even maybe sometimes take care of their needs.
Mm-hmm.
But you find because of lack,
Mm-hmm.
that parent is not able to cater for those girls' needs.
Yeah.
I think that's the most painful thing as a parent
Mm-hmm.
when you see your children growing
Mm-hmm.
and you're not able to actually satisfy their needs, even their basic needs,
Yes.
such that the food that you're giving
Mm-hmm.
is not even nutritious.
Mm-hmm.
So that if a girl goes out there and they find someone who can buy them maybe some few chips here and there,
Mm-hmm.
they are told maybe I'll buy you a soda.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like really this is someone who cares for
So
me.
from our conversation, it tends to look like when we dignify the parents, when we start from down there at the community, and also ensure that our systems are working within our education systems are working, then we are able to have a smooth kind of life when it comes to issues around education, right?
Yeah, it's really important
Mm-hmm.
that we're able to ensure that everyone
Mm-hmm.
is living a dignified life,
Mm-hmm.
such that you're able to even provide basics
Mm-hmm.
to your school going children.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it will really be bad if your child tomorrow is going to school
Mm-hmm.
and their uniforms are torn
Mm-hmm.
and they really feel like they're growing and they're really starting to feel bad every time they even called out there.
Mm-hmm.
They really feel like they don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that we ensure that everyone can be able to earn a living
Mm-hmm.
or maybe earn gainful employment
Mm-hmm.
that can relate back now to ensuring that they provide a dignified living for their children, so that we don't have these cases where a young girl is experiencing some changes in their
Mm-hmm.
body,
Mm-hmm.
but they even sure if they tell their parents,
Mm-hmm.
they'll not be able
Yeah.
to even buy that sanitary pad,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll not be able to even get that soap
Mm-hmm.
to even ensure that they're clean this time of the month.
Mm-hmm.
So not only that,
Mm-hmm.
that we are just putting uh, the issue of pregnancies to
Mm-hmm.
the left,
Yeah.
but also it's important that we look at morals.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how how is our community behaving
Mm-hmm.
in terms of now encouraging these young people to maybe start relationships or
Mm.
maybe even carry on with
Mm.
relationships. So I think it's really important that we look at the morals of
Oh,
of now
okay.
how how the larger community
Mhm.
is looking at the behavior.
Mm.
Are you able now to sit down a young person and tell them uh, it's really good to be in a relationship,
Mm.
but this relationship comes
Yeah.
with a lot of
Mhm.
responsibilities.
Mm.
And some of those responsibilities and some of those emotional feelings are not, you're not able to cater for them
Yeah.
when you're young and
Yeah.
when you're in school.
Mm.
So I think it's also important that we also pinpoint that at one point or another,
Mm.
this failure from parents and also failure from the larger community.
Mm.
Because I really insist on the larger community because a lot of things people learn, they're learning from the community,
Yeah.
so that you find if you live in a community where some words
Mhm.
are normalized
Mm.
or some actions are normalized,
Mm.
tend to think that they are normal
Mm.
and you even start practicing them very
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
But when you live in a community where people are conducting themselves with some
Mm.
decorum,
Mm.
you start knowing that is the way to conduct yourself.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's really important that also as community members, we
Mhm.
take up that role
Yeah.
to ensuring that our girls are safe. And even our young boys, we've seen a lot of, because we can never talk about girls only when it comes to this.
Yeah.
There's also a responsibility of the young boys
Mhm.
to ensure that actually they're safe
Yeah.
and also ensure that they take care of the girls. Because
Mhm.
as you see in our country right now, there's a lot of issues when it comes to femicide.
Mm.
Uh, the contributors of this are mostly are men.
All right.
So if you talk to our young men and tell them this is how we're supposed to take care of our women and this is how we're supposed to communicate to them when
Mhm.
there's a communication breakdown,
Yeah.
it's really important
I
that
think some of these emerging issues are also supposed to be integrated somewhere within the curriculum. I think there are subjects about, I think, life skills
yeah,
is also somewhere.
yeah, it's really
So these are
important
some of the
that
things that need to be inculcated.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think one thing that we really need to encourage is that to ensure that our outside school
Mm-hmm.
the responsibilities that parents have,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's really important that when you're watching even news,
Mm.
the children be able now to pass down that communication
Mm.
that this is not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, sure, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
we need to actually ensure that we
Mm.
take care of our ladies and
Mm-hmm.
really ensure that we have a community that is
Mm.
taken care of well.
All right. So in 1 minute, actually 1 minute is too late. 30 seconds. No, 30 seconds is too much.
Uh,
20 seconds. Tell, tell us something about Utu, about human dignity, and what you'd talk about it when it comes to education, real quick.
I think robbing anyone of their education
Mm-hmm.
right is robbing them of their dignity
Mm-hmm.
because you've robbed them uh, something that is really important in
Mm-hmm.
ensuring that they're out there and
Mm-hmm.
contributing to community and also to self
Mm-hmm.
so that they're able to feel
Mm-hmm.
that they belong somewhere
Okay.
because I think everyone out there
Mm-hmm.
they need to be feeling like they are part of this country
Yes.
and they're actually doing something to ensure this is a betterment tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important that we ensure
Mm-hmm.
that also when you're giving this education to these
Mm-hmm.
young people, you give it in a dignified manner,
Mm-hmm.
such that we don't rob their dignity by telling them they're poor
Mm-hmm.
or they come from a poor background, or even at times you find their actions
Mm-hmm.
that are discriminatory
Mm-hmm.
to a point where you find they are learners from a certain school
Mm-hmm.
that are known those are from a certain area, poor area or certain things. So let's try and ensure that we ensure that everyone can get access in a dignified manner
Yeah.
and you don't rob anyone of their
Okay.
the right to education because
Mm.
education gives you a lot of dignity.
Yeah.
You may not have so much,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that you are able to contribute and make a difference,
Mm.
it really gives you a lot of
Uh-huh.
self satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Bona David, for your very, very, very valuable insights
Thank you
into
for the
this
invite. Thank you for the
conversation.
invite.
And we look forward to having a Kenya where education one rewards and finally dignifies people, and also people go through the same education in a dignified manner. Ni sana sana sana. Make sure that you drop your comments. They are going to be shaping our conversations in the future. Asanteni sana. Kwaheri.
Nchi yetu ya Kenya tunayoipenda, tuwe tayari kuilinda.